contest season. Contest season is always exciting. I would now like to hand it over to our wonderful host, Isidro. Isidro started his Toastmasters journey in 2017, was a contestant, becoming the district champion several times in a row, and reached the final of the World Champion of Public Speaking in 2021. He is also a TEDx speaker, currently he's the division director for Division D, after taking several officer roles in the area and club levels. Isidro, take it away.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I was about to say good evening because I trained last year to say good evening in the last year's Winners Academy, but today we are in the beautiful morning, so good morning to everyone. I asked Percy to send me a test. How would you like to be introduced? And he wrote, last year's district winner in evaluations, Percy is a serial contestant, long-term Toastmaster and TEDx speaker with a professional background in real estate. In his session, he will reveal some of the techniques and tricks that can elevate a regular evaluation to winning contest material. Well, I have to tell you that I found it very short. Percy is much more than this. Percy is an outstanding speaker, whether in prepared speech or impromptu. It's someone who I admire a lot. He knows that. I've said it publicly many times. So welcome, Percy, and thank you for accepting this challenge and share your tips and tricks with us. So let's do it. Percy, Roland.
Thank you, Isidro. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. I have to tell you one thing, Isidro. I never sent you the text, and I just realized I forgot I sent you the text of how to introduce me here. This was the text for how to promote it online, and I was looking on Facebook. I said, where is it? This is the thing. We no matter how long we do this, we're still learning how to communicate clearly and effectively, especially in email. This session is called Elevate, Evaluate. And I want you to bear these two words in mind, because we want to think about how we elevate our game in evaluating and how we elevate others through evaluating. Believe it or not, but I can still remember the first Toastmasters evaluation I did 18 years ago. I was a guest. It was my first visit to the Achievers Club in Marbella. And there were only about 10 people in the room, and they put me in the front row, which is not something you should do to a guest, especially one who feels a bit shy about attending for the first time. And then after every speech, they gave me a piece of paper to write down my impressions about the speech. I looked at it. And if you've ever been to our club, you know, we have our own self-designed evaluation sheet, which is pretty detailed. It says how you saw the body language and how you perceived the vocal variety and all kinds of details. And I looked at it and I thought, I have no idea how to evaluate this. But I being half German, I thought I have an opinion and I will express it. And if you've ever had an evaluation from anybody German, you will know that they can be pretty direct. And I still remember, because I didn't have anything specific to say. What I put in the evaluation was, when it says, how did you see the speaker? I saw tired and no energy. Luckily, that speaker was also German, so I think he took it pretty well. Imagine my horror when I joined got my wonderful Toastmasters manual and started reading how we should actually evaluate speeches. And I realized that maybe this is not exactly the way to do it. Of course, most of us have had evaluations and feedback throughout our lives, our adult lives, and worst of all, our childhoods, long before we joined Toastmasters. And most of the time, let's face it, the feedback probably hasn't been as positive, as uplifting, and as kind as Toastmasters feedback tends to be. How many times have we heard words like, "You are stupid. How can you be so stupid? Why can you not do this? Why did you do that?" For me, joining Toastmasters, apart from all the other benefits of learning how to speak and learning how to think on your feet, maybe the biggest and most profound benefit has been to learn how to give feedback, to learn how to receive feedback, but above all, to learn how to give it. Not just because it teaches us to be kind to others and be more effective in the feedback we give, but because it actually changes your mindset. When we learn that we should give positive suggestions rather than focus on what the speaker did badly, we change our mindset. We no longer look for blame, we look for a solution. And once that becomes second nature, we can start applying it outside of Toastmasters, and not just in evaluating, but actually in the way we react to challenges and to things happening in our lives, looking for the positive outcome rather than the negative thing that happened. We have some background noise somewhere. If everybody could mute themselves, please, that would be wonderful. Today, I'm going to look at if... Am I the only one who hears this? No, perfect. I'm going to look at a few of the basics of evaluating, which some of you may know, but it's still good to sometimes go through reinforcing some of the basics, because competing is wonderful, but ultimately what we're doing in competing is really just putting our skills to the test. And the great thing about competing is that we're learning things that we then can take away again and use in other situations. But if we only focus on competing, we are keeping it a bit narrow. So I'm going to look at some of the basics that I think are important in evaluating in general. We're going to look at some of the techniques that are commonly used. Then we're going to look at a few specific tips on contest situations. And then we're going to have a Q&A session and have hopefully a lively discussion on evaluating and exchange tips. For me, the most important consideration when we evaluate is to see the big picture. It is very easy, especially once we are more experienced, especially once we've done this many, many times. It is very easy to get bogged down in detail, to focus a lot on body language or on hand movements, on eye contact, and to focus so much on these small details that we sometimes lose the big picture. As the saying goes, we no longer see the forest for the trees. The big picture for me is, did this speech achieve its purpose? And for that, we need to understand what the purpose of the speech is. This is also an important challenge for the speaker. When you're giving a speech, do you understand the purpose of the speech? Now, the purpose is not the message, although the message can be related. In Toastmasters, we always hear about the message of the speech. The message is part of it. What's your purpose? I know people in my club and elsewhere who cannot really evaluate, and they're very vocal about it. I cannot evaluate this speech if I don't have the objectives, the pathways objectives of the speech. I don't know how to evaluate it. That makes sense in a certain way because obviously when we're doing a pathway speech, we have a very specific set of objectives which we should meet. But that set of objectives also is not the purpose. The purpose of the speech is bigger. The purpose of the speech is what is it trying to achieve in me who is listening? Is it trying to inspire me to take action? Is it trying to uplift me? Is it trying to entertain me? Is it trying to make me change my thoughts or my actions? What is the purpose? And how did this speech achieve this purpose, and how did it fit into this purpose? How did it make me feel at the end? I think we all know this very famous quote of Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. How you make them feel during the speech, the overall impression that you leave afterwards, is the most important thing. And if you asked an audience of non-Toastmasters to give you some feedback after a speech, you will probably get more valuable insights on that level than the ones who focus on, oh, your eye contact was off, or your body language, your hand gestures. And I sometimes feel this when we are, especially at contest level, where the evaluation level is very high and very technical, that I listen to a speech that really moves me profoundly, and then I watch the evaluators come up and they analyze a lot of small technicalities, which sometimes, when it's a very powerful speech, you don't even notice. They are correct, and yet I feel they're missing the point. So this is the first thing for me that I look for, and the longer I'm doing this, the more I'm looking for this, and the less I'm actually trying to focus on small details. To the point that I now try not to take notes during a speech, or as little as possible, because that way I see more of the big picture. The second point that I find is very important is always to be specific. When we give feedback, it is vital that we are as specific as possible. There's no use telling me that my body language was good or that my body language was bad, because I can't do anything with it. If you tell me my hand gestures were good, okay, that's better. But what about my hand gestures was good? Is it the way I open my hands? Is it the way I point at you? What is it? And why? Why is it good? Why should I do this? Because if you're telling me that something very specific that I did was great, or it was not good, or I should do it better, that still doesn't really tell me much. That's just your personal perception. Why? Why is it a good idea to do it like this? Be as specific as possible, because that way we can implement what we hear. When we're giving evaluations, and obviously we want to be as positive and helpful as possible, there was a trick I was reading about recently and that I try to apply now, which is very clever. Whenever we are giving feedback and it's negative, or we are giving judgment, positive or negative, you did X. We are in the past. We are talking about the past. When we are giving positive feedback, suggestions for improvement, we're talking about the future, things you could do better. So when we are listening to the speech and when we are making our observations and thinking about what can we say, it's a very simple test. Am I looking back or am I looking forward? And that way we can avoid falling into the trap of giving, let's say, judgmental feedback. It can be positive, but still it's not really helping me. It's telling me what I did in the past rather than what I could do in the future. And that is where we want to go forward. There is this tendency now, is I think it's even in big companies, people no longer call it feedback, they call it feed forward. Personally, I'm not a big fan of these kind of renaming things, but the thought behind it is important. We want to give feedback that helps the person to improve in the future. So it's the future we need to focus on, not the past. Not what did you do, but what could you do? When we're evaluating also, I think many of us have a tendency to focus very much on what can you improve. We're really looking for it, right? We're going through this, even the best speech, and we're going through it like, oh, but you could have done this better and you could do this better. There's nothing wrong with that as long as we're balanced. In my experience, many people, especially newer speakers, and especially if they're very nervous, are not aware enough of what they actually do well. I remember when I started, and I still to this day, I have the tendency, whenever I give a speech, when I sit down, all I can think about is, why did I do this? I forgot this. Damn, I screwed up. I made a mess. I forgot. I only focus on the things that went badly. And I remember when I was a new speaker and I got evaluations and people started highlighting things I did well, I had no idea. I was not aware I was doing those things. They also highlighted some of the bad things I did, and I was not aware of those either. But hearing the things that I did well was probably more valuable because I wasn't aware that I was doing these. It obviously boosted my morale, but most importantly, I could consciously do these things, and I could consciously do more of what I do well. Very often people really need to hear specific what they are doing well and what they should do more of. Obviously, they also need to hear what they can do better. But the thing in the old manuals, I remember, about whitewashing evaluations, because sometimes obviously people have a tendency to be too kind and they don't want to hurt the person. So all they give is positive feedback. Obviously, that's also not helpful because we need to improve. So it's really keeping the balance. And I'm going to talk a little bit in a minute about the techniques of how you structure that. One thing that is becoming obvious to me, again, with time, the more I do it, is that less is more. And I was guilty of this for a very long time, that I would always give too many points. I would have 5 points of what you did well and 6 points for improvement. And obviously, first of all, I would always go overtime. Well, I still go overtime, but with less points, I still manage to go overtime. But when you have too many points, you overwhelm the person you're giving feedback to. They no longer can really absorb what they're hearing. You're, again, not seeing the forest for the trees, and you're missing the big picture. Less is more. We can always have a conversation afterwards with the speaker and give them more detailed feedback, and a lot of people appreciate that. Or we can put it in writing. We can have a coffee and talk about the speech and really analyze it if they are open for that. But in an evaluation, focus on the big picture. And it brings me to the question of notes. Obviously, I think we all use notes when we evaluate, most of us, unless you have a really photographic memory and you can sort of remember all the points you want to use. Recently, as an experiment, I started to do evaluations with little or no notes. Or even if I took the notes, I don't take them up on stage with me in club evaluations. Because I thought that way, maybe I can train myself to not look too much at detail and to see more the big picture. If I don't remember something, chances are it wasn't that important. You know, we usually, I don't know how it is in your clubs, but usually we do the evaluation, we have 2-3 speeches, and then we have the evaluation. So a certain time passes between the speech and the evaluation. The same happens in the contest. We have our 5 minutes to digest the speech, and then we go out there, and unless we are the first speaker, we have another 5, 10, 15 minutes to get senselessly nervous and have another coffee, which is not a good idea, and pace up and down like a caged tiger and try and come up with a clever evaluation. But time passes. And if after that time, there are only 2 or 3 things you remember, those are the important things. Most likely, unless if you have a memory problem, maybe. It's obviously good to know when you're nervous, you need notes, because the nerves can make you go blank completely, but you can still just minimize them. But it's a good idea to experiment with this. Maybe not in the next contest, but before the contest in your club, to try and do evaluations without notes and to really see how they change and how your perception, how your feedback changes. obviously, when we're using notes, we need to try and minimize them. I want to talk about that when I get to tips for competitions. We have those famous techniques in evaluating, right? We have the sandwich technique, which I think is very good in some ways when we start off to really learn how to structure feedback. I don't want to talk sandwich technique down in general. I think it certainly helped me to understand the concept that you should lead with positive feedback and you should finish with positive feedback as well, so that the person feels positive about the experience and in general positive about the speech they gave. But there are a couple of pitfalls to the sandwich technique if you think about it. First of all, it reinforces the idea that praise is positive and suggestions for improvement are negative. Why? It's all positive feedback. The good and the what you could do better, they're all positive, and they should all be presented in a positive manner. There really is no need to cushion one in the other. It also downplays actually the importance of the positive statements. If you think about it, it's a sandwich, right? When you talk about a sandwich, what do you call it? You call it a ham sandwich, you call it a tuna sandwich, you call it a chicken sandwich. You don't call it a bread sandwich. You don't call it a white bread sandwich. No, you talk about the sandwich is defined by what is in the middle, right? The bread is just there to frame what is really important, which is the meat. And this is how so many of us think about the way we deliver the evaluation. We have all that fluff before, oh, you did this well, you did this well. Now I'm going to tell you what's really important. And then I give you a bit of fluff again so that you feel better about what I told you. That's not it. So all parts of the evaluations are important, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if we think about it too much in this term of sandwich, then we risk downplaying what is important and also reinforcing this idea that there is something negative that needs to be cushioned, but at the same time, that's what's actually really important. Both are wrong. And there's another risk to this, and it's that we can appear disingenuous or even dishonest. I think we all know this expression that the saying that anything that you say before the word but is a lie, right? If I say, I love you, but you're not going to believe me, and you're only going to hear what I'm saying after the but. It's the same with evaluations. If we, no matter how much time we spend about all these wonderful things you did, but your body language sucks, that's what you're going to remember, not the rest. So we devalue also those things. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't do the sandwich technique, but we should be aware of the way in which if we use it too much in this formulaic way, we can undermine the value of the feedback we're giving. There are other techniques like the 3-2-1 technique. 3 good things, 3 things you did well, 2 suggestions for improvement, 1 takeaway. Again, not bad. These things I find, especially in contest situations, are risky, because what if you suddenly remember, forget one of those points? I'll never forget, there was a press conference, I think it was in a US presidential election. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Mitt Romney. Claudia maybe will remember who it was. I think it was Mitt Romney in a debate. And he said, well, there are 3 points I want to make. And he made the first point and he made the second point, and then he couldn't remember the third point. And it cost him the election, basically, because it made him look so stupid. And of course, it can happen to anyone. But I remember watching it and I thought, okay, I will never say that again. I have 3 things to tell you, because what if you forget what the point is? Rule of 3 is another one of those things that I think is overused. The rule of 3 is very powerful. I think we all know this. But why do we always need to have 3 points? Sometimes we can have just 1 point and make that 1 point powerful. We can have 2 points. We can have 4 points. Less is more. We shouldn't have too many. But for the love of God, if you're using the rule of 3, Don't tell me I have 3 things to tell you, and don't show me 3 fingers, because I can count and I know the meaning of the word 3, and I don't need it demonstrated as if I was stupid. I think it's overused and it becomes cliche. So when we use these things, let's try and be subtle about it. When we're using the sandwich technique, let's do it in such a natural way that you don't even notice where the bread finishes and the meat starts and the bread starts again. Let's be a little bit more creative. And above all, let's remember that the evaluation is about the person who's receiving it and the value that we are giving them. Not about us, not about how good we look on stage doing all these things, but about the value we're giving this person. And if we can give the maximum value to this speaker in the 3 minutes and 29 seconds that most of us try to use in evaluations, by speaking about one point only, then let's do that. There is no need to follow a formula. What we need to do really is try and elevate that person to become a better speaker. Now, a couple of things that are very specific to contests, obviously. One is, and these are just personal, my personal observations or tricks that I use, and I would really love it if maybe in the Q&A session, others who've been in contests also would maybe share theirs, or we can have a discussion and have like an exchange of ideas. Obviously, one of the most important things is how you take notes. I mean, unless you are very brave and maybe experienced, I wouldn't recommend to do it entirely without notes. Try it in the club as an experiment, see if it works for you and if you have a good memory. But remember that in the contest situation, nerves will be really, they will take you over. Even if you are very experienced and you've done this for so many years, you will get the nerves. So I think it's a good idea to have notes. Organize them while you're taking them already. Have some kind of template where you mark, what are the points that are good points, what are points for improvement, and do the notes in a way that they're easy to reorganize, because you have the 5 minutes afterwards. And especially if you are the first speaker, then you really only have those 5 minutes and then you're on. So you don't want to waste too much time rewriting your entire notes or basically writing a whole evaluation. You should already have it more or less in place. Obviously, less is more. So the fewer notes you take during the speech, the easier it will be to also organize them for your evaluation in those 5 minutes you have. 5 minutes are so short. They are so short when you are under stress and under pressure and trying to get this right. And you want to use those 5 minutes actually more on working on your presentation, on the actual speech you're going to give, than just on organizing your notes. So the fewer notes you already have, the easier it will be. And then it really is a case, and this is where contests are different from general speech evaluations, where there's really the big difference. In a competition, it is about you as much as it is about giving feedback to the target speaker, because obviously you want to win and you need to stand out. In a contest situation, especially the further we go to division and district level, you're in front of 200 people. It's like the old Harvey Specter quote, "Life is this, I like this." You have to be up here and elevate your game and elevate your evaluation. So it's a speech and a performance as much as an evaluation. So think about it as a speech. It should have an opening, it should have a body, it should have a conclusion. It should have some kind of bang, some kind of wow factor as a speech, regardless of the actual content. That is important in terms of winning. You can have very, very good content, but if you don't deliver it in a contest-worthy manner, then you will probably not win the competition. And that's a bit unfair in some ways, because ultimately the evaluation contest should be about the quality of the evaluation, the quality of the feedback you give. But actually the quality of the performance counts just as much. There is one very specific thing about contests, which I personally don't like, but unfortunately it is part of our contest format, and it's the famous summation. And you get specific points for that on the judging form. And it's this thing that basically you're supposed to summarize everything you've said in the evaluation before you wrap it up. So if you had 3 good points and 3 points for improvement, then you should recap the 3 points that were good and the 3 points for improvement, and then you can give it your little bow at the end and finish off. I personally really dislike it. I think it is a waste of time when we have only 3 minutes to do an evaluation. I think it's a bit boring, but it is what it is. My plea to anyone is, again, just like if you're using the rule of 3, don't rub it in my face. In summary, everybody says this, in summary or in summation, you did this, this, and this, and you could do this, this, and this. Let's try and be a little bit more elegant about that. We can do it without being very obvious, putting a full stop on our contest-worthy performance and suddenly delivering a list that we probably have to look at our notes because we can no longer remember what the first 3 points were. So it's important to do it, but I would suggest that we do it in a bit more fun way. And ultimately, there is something that it's not a must, but I find it works very well. And it's something I learned from my good friend Sabi Singh Gupta in Netherlands, who is a several times evaluation champion in his district. And it's coming up with one clever line at the end, a one-liner that really wraps up your message to the speaker. And it can be a rhetorical device, it can be a quote, it can be something that rhymes, it can be something, a few words, but something that is clever. And that, it's like the dot on the I or the bow on the wrapped gift. It really elevates an evaluation to a different level. And because it comes at the end, it's the last impression people get, and they go, wow. And that wow from the audience is something that judges also feel. And even though I don't think it's a factor in the judging form, audience reaction, it still influences us. When we feel that everybody suddenly went, oh, wow, we automatically feel this was good. This was maybe better than the one that came before. So it's just something to think about. It's not a must. It doesn't come naturally to everybody. And obviously, we all are different. So we also should do things the way they come to us naturally. And we need to know what is our personal strength and play to our strength, do what we do best. But this is something that can work very well if you're able to come up with a clever line like that, or something that just elevates your performance from the rest. Those are my little points, things I think about when I am sitting there getting very nervous. And I'd love to throw it open now to all of you and hear if you have any questions or what you would like to contribute.
Sharon has a question.
Yes, hi. Thank you. It was all excellent and gave me some new ideas. But you didn't really give examples. For instance, your one-liners at the end. Could you give me some examples of those? And my other question is, do you speak directly to the person you're evaluating, or do you say we or talking to the whole audience?
I should have written some down because now, I've gone blank and I can't remember any of those one-liners that that I remember that worked, or even one that I used. I can't remember a single one. I'll try and find some examples and I can share them with you. Do you speak to the person or to the audience? I would say do both. In general, I think what works best is if you combine speaking to the person, and some people only speak to the audience and they speak about the speaker in what Sharon did, for example. Did you see what I find that too much? I think it's ultimately the feedback is for that person, and I think we should acknowledge that person. But at the same time, if we make it only directed at the target speaker, then we lose the audience a bit. So it's a combination of both.
Thank you.
Alba?
Yes. Hi, Percy. Thank you for your presentation. I had the same question. Well, I had one of the questions was the same of Sharon, that if you could give us an example of the line, but I know it's not your style is service, but okay, you can tell us something later. But I would like to know about the summary at the end that you said that you don't particularly like that, but we need to find a different way of doing it. Can you tell us how you do it, what you say to avoid saying in summary and conclusion?
Just there is no way you can really avoid it. So we have to do it, but we can at least not say in summary, do this, do this, do this. Just let it flow naturally. When you usually, let's say you're using the sandwich technique, you started off with some points that were positive points, then you gave a few suggestions, and then you could just basically go into a conclusion where you say, so you had your points of improvement. However, with the wonderful body language you used in this speech and the fantastic vocal variety and the great structure in this speech, yes, you could improve this and you could improve this, but you are a fantastic speaker already. I'm just, something very basic, but doing it in a way that is natural and doesn't feel like you are following this formula and you're making it very clear. Judges, are you watching? I am now doing the summation. I want your points for this. It's, especially I find when I'm sitting in the audience and I'm listening to the evaluations and everybody is doing the same thing. It's also, actually also, when you're a judge, I think it in some ways makes it harder to tell, okay, who's a really good evaluator? And I think you want your own personality to shine through. You want to do it your way. And if I could, I would just not do it. And maybe we can try and not do it. And, it depends, I think, on the judges. I think it's not, I can't remember how many points you get for the summation.
5.
Huh?
5.
5. So it's actually not that much. I would just, maybe not drop it entirely, but at least not make it this formulaic thing which takes up 30 seconds of your evaluation, which just repeating what we have just heard. To me, it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't add value to the speaker you're evaluating.
Okay, thank you.
The one-liner I'm thinking of is something like, just to give a very basic things like don't just evaluate, don't just elevate to evaluate to elevate, something like that. Just, it can be funny, it can be just a play of words. That's sort of one line I'm thinking of.
Any other questions?
That it can be a line associated to the speech, in fact.
Huh?
It's a line that is associated to the speech.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I was thinking another thing, but now, in fact, yes, something. We don't have to say, I will look forward to hearing you again, but a line is more adequate, of course.
Oh, no, please. That's like, I look forward to your next speech. I would say it when I'm evaluating an icebreaker, maybe, or a second speech of someone, like to really motivate them. Oh, this was great. I want to hear more from you, Yeah. But again, we can say it. There's nothing wrong with saying it. On the contrary, especially if we really mean it, it's good to say it. But we don't need to use the same words that everybody else uses. Oh. Right? We can say it in a different way. Kirsten, I see your hand up.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Percy. Really, really super tips. I've got a question, because the certain things you mentioned, the sandwich, the 3-2-1, were all the things that in the early years of Toastmaster I was taught, and I tried to apply rigidly. And then I also now try to drop them and find different ways of doing it more naturally, because after a while it becomes a bit tedious.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I was always taught at the beginning is to maybe pick up on some examples. In praise, this is much easier when you say, oh, it's wonderful when you opened like this, or you did this particular move. But what do you think of utilizing certain aspects of what a person has just done in their speech in the piece where you're trying to give them some advice? Because I'm always torn between, on the one hand, that could be very effective when you say, for example, top of my head, you know, when you said this, if you'd come closer into the audience and you demonstrate it on stage, or is it pedantic?
No, I don't think so. I think it's good. I think this falls under being specific, and the most specific you can do is actually demonstrating, right? That's the most we can be, to demonstrate. Okay, we want to maybe not do it if somebody did something really embarrassing or something to you know, you don't want to be a parody of the speaker. But apart from that, no, I think on the contrary, this is what notes are good for, actually. And where I always would say use notes, and even maybe have your little cue card in your hand when you are on stage, if you want to quote specifically what a speaker said. Because sometimes, you know, something one of the strongest things that a speaker can do is specific use of words, specific use of language. And you want to quote back at them exactly what they said. You know, just now the question from Sharon and Alba, can you give us an example of what is a one-liner? Give us a one-liner, be specific. It's the same thing. If I tell somebody, oh, you know, I loved the language you used, that's great. But if I can quote, you know, the way sometimes grammarians do in the club, and they have a list of, you know, very clever uses of language, it's much better. That's much more powerful. And the audience learns from it as well. So
it's great. I think the same, but at times I think, God, does it come across as, oh, I know better, or, you know, like I said, pedantic? But, you know, I agree with what you're saying, and I think that's a very effective way.
Yes, I'm very glad you said that, because that is really something that we need to overcome, that imposter syndrome when we're evaluating. We're up there because we know better. That's our, if we don't, absolutely not better maybe, but you know, if we don't think that we have something worthwhile to teach in that moment, what are we doing up there? No. We do. Obviously, it's our personal opinion, and nobody's perfect. We're all learning together. But I think Toastmasters, all of us, we know this. We are aware of this. So I don't think that's a risk. If you're doing it with the raised finger and saying, now, Kirsten, listen to me, what you're doing is very stupid, please don't do it. Yeah, but that's not the Toastmasters way. But if we're demonstrating, and then demonstrating, I'm very glad you brought this up, because it's important actually in contest situation. Performance is also you know, counts for a lot of what you're doing. So if you can demonstrate, as you said, go into the audience, whisper, and you can take, for example, something they said, but it would be even more powerful if they whispered it. You repeat it, and you show exactly how that works. It's a performance. It does the two things that it really should do. It gives valuable feedback, it helps the speaker to improve, and it makes you a good performer on stage.
Thank you.
I have one question. Imagine you are listening a really, really good speech, and you don't identify any suggestion for improvement. You know, any suggestion, any tips, anything that, you know?
Focus on what made the speech so great, and talk about that. Because, as I said, sometimes, it can happen that we listen to a speech. If you know, it's a good exercise to watch some of the, let's say, World Championship speeches. Not all of them are actually that great, but some of them are. I mean, if many of us have watched probably to death, I see something, but I don't know what it is. And that's a speech where I'm trying my best to find something I could improve. And honestly, I would, if I had to evaluate that, I would struggle to find anything that I would change. And I'm a nitpicker. I'm a pedantic person who, I am half German. I always find that in German we have an expression, finding the hair in the soup. You know, that little thing that bothers you. I'm great at that. And if I don't find it, I make it up. But if you genuinely don't find anything, then tell us in detail what made this speech so good, because we learn as much from that as we learn from the rest. Just one thing, don't mention, I have no suggestions for improvement. There is no need to tell us the obvious. You know, it's like, I have 3 things to tell you. Just tell us the 3 things. I would not, you know, highlight the fact that you have no suggestions for improvement, because to some people that might seem that you're not competent. Also, some people might disagree with that and say, what? I have lots of ideas to improve this speech. So I would just give that feedback, but without highlighting the fact that you couldn't find anything to improve.
Thank you.
Hello, can I add some questions? Percy, I love some of the tips you gave us today, and one particularly, you said when we are taking notes, and then we have the 5 minutes to prepare our speech. It's very important that our notes are organized in such a way that will facilitate when we go to the stage. Do you have some special tip for that? Because I think it's really important and could easy our job when go to the stage.
Well, I think the best is you find the way that works for you, because we're all different. Our brains work differently, right? What I generally do is I split the sheet in 2 in the middle, and I copy what some of you might know Florian Mück from Barcelona, and he developed this. It's actually, I think he even trademarked plus system. So you have plus what the speaker did well, and then you have plus what the speaker can do better. And those are your 2 categories. So anytime you spot something that you think the speaker does very well, you write it down on, let's say, the left side of the sheet. And then when you spot something the speaker can do better, you write it down on the right-hand side of the sheet. And then basically you have that sheet already. And all you need to do when you sit down is maybe cross out, you decide, okay, I've got 6 points here, which are the most important? You cross out the 2 or 3 that are less important, and then you just number the order in which you want to present the points. Obviously, if you have lots of scribbles, then maybe you need to rewrite it, but that's one way, but everybody has their own, you know, their own technique. So I would say experiment, find what works for you. And obviously, when you're doing it like this, it's very easy to then fall into the trap, or it's not a trap, but let's say the habit of, again, being very like focused. Okay, I will give some points for improvement, and you automatically get into the sandwich technique. You know, but it's interesting if you, for example, let's say you have your notes and you look at them and you've got 1 point under plus and you've got 10 points under plus. Okay, how do I do this evaluation? But again, then it's I think really the main challenge then in those 5 minutes is to eliminate what is less relevant, because yes, we can mention 10 things, but what are the most important things?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, fellow Toastmasters? You take your chance now, because Percy is not available every day.
Can I just ask if this recording will be sent to us, to those who registered, because it will be very useful to listen again in a month or 2.
Well, what I have to say, we are recording for the district. We didn't decide, we haven't decided yet if it will be available or not. So you guys that are willing to attend the next session and the following session, you better attend, because we don't know if the video will be available or not. It might be, it might not, who knows? But if it will be available, it will be on YouTube. That's what I can say.
I like your sales technique.
Yeah, so lousy, right?
No, it's good.
Any other question? If not, I will call our public relation manager and Hanan to present us the next workshop. Hanan, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hanan. I am the PR manager of District 107. I'm really happy to be with you today and the first sessions of the Winners Academy. So some of you, I already met them during the conference in Tangier last year. Some of you, I already reached them to participate in projects of the District 107, the newsletter. So thank you for your supporting and thank you for your collaboration so far. So do you have any guest who's gonna be the next guest in the Winners Academy? Any guest?
I know.
Kirsten?
Others, what about the others?
Kirsten, yeah.
So yeah, our second guest is Kirsten Debuche Shilem. Sorry, Kirsten, for if I wrong spelling your name, and don't do a speech fit for radio. So are you willing to attend the next session? We all will be there.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Good stuff.
Raising his hand. What about others?
But let me tell you that Kirsten delivered an outstanding workshop about body language in Madrid, in our summit, fall summit in Madrid. She will try to replicate it online, and she can. Believe me, she can and she will deliver. So don't miss that. I will pass I will give the floor to our program quality manager, director, Claudia, to close this wonderful session. Percy, thank you so much for your outstanding presentation. Claudia.
My pleasure, and I look forward to meeting some of you in the ring later this year.
Not
Oh,
me.
no. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I know Saturday morning, some people say, oh, does it have to be on a Saturday morning? You know, we can't please everyone, but we were able to please at least 42. So that I am very grateful that we were able to deliver this to you. And again, we have 5 more. Kirsten is up on Tuesday. Please encourage your members to attend. It's sometimes very difficult for us to funnel this information down to the members. If they're not on the chat groups, they don't hear about it. We've tried to do our best. Hanan, our PR manager, does her very best to spread the word, but we also want you to do the same. So thank you again. We are the team, Hanan, Isidro, and I, for the Winners Academy. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to contact one of us, and we will hopefully guide you in the right direction moving forward. Any
Thank
more
you so much.
questions?
No, thank you, thank you.
Okay,
And thank you, Percy.
fantastic.
Where do we get the link
Yes.
to register for the next one?
It's the same link. When you registered, you could choose
Oh, okay.
but I can send the link here.
Yes,
I will
please.
do it. You can register again and choose different options because we only send email for those who have registered for the specific workshop. Let me.
And you will send the email the same day, right?
The day before.
Oh,
the day before and 1 hour before the event on the same day.
Perfect.
So
That's excellent with the reminders. Thanks.
Yeah, I know people. I
Yes.
know people. Myself, I'm a master of forgetting. So this is the link. No, it's not the link. This is the one for the. This is this link for the Zoom, not the link for registering. Let me check. Hanan, do you have it? The link for.
Okay, I will look for it.
To make the
Yes.
registration.
Minute.
And we'll also post it again, possibly on LinkedIn, on the chat group. You know, we'll keep reminding everyone, but
yes,
but we want you to also remind again your members. I mean, we're 42 and we're over 1,000 close to 2,000 in the district. Where is everyone?
And I'm not in the district, so that's why I'm not in these other groups.
Right, right. Yes, I posted it on our regional chat group as well.
D'accord. Bah, c'est tout à la fin. Tout à la fin.
No,
It says not found when I press it.
No, it's not this one. Let me.
Oui, c'est tout à la fin.
c'est complètement.
Just okay. I have it here. I got it from the
WhatsApp group?
yeah, from the WhatsApp. Oh no, I can send this one. It's let me just see if it is correct because
And
I have
while you're
more
looking-
privilege.
While you're looking, I don't know if you can do two things at the same time. Sorry about that. You said that if they will be available later, they'll be available on YouTube. But where on YouTube? Does District 107 have its own YouTube?
Yes. That's correct. We have our own YouTube channel.
Okay, lovely. Thanks. Okay, now I've got the
No,
registration.
it's a great idea if you subscribe to our YouTube channel.
So shall I just look for District 107 in YouTube?
Yes.
Yes.
Because this was excellent. Thank you.
Sharon, how did you hear about it? I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Maybe I saw it on Facebook. I'm actually not sure. I don't remember.
Okay.
Maybe it
So-
was in the region. I really
Yes.
can't remember. You know, I see
Okay.
things, click on it.
Here is the link. So I've just shared it on this chat. You can register again and choose additional workshop that you are willing to attend. We have Mohammed. Do you have a question, Mohammed?
The one on Tuesday is in the middle of the night in Europe.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Again, we can't please everyone. We
No.
tried to accommodate everyone as best we could, and it's up to also the speaker to be available. So if the speaker says they're available at that time, that's what we grant them their wish.
And
It will be
also,
9 p.m. 9 p.m. Spanish time.
yeah, and we
Oh,
also
that's not so
tried, and we also tried not to, you know, we knew that it would overlap some club session, so we tried to make it more diverse this year, including Saturdays, so to avoid overlapping with the club session, and according to the availability of the speakers as well. So, Claudia, would you close the session?
Okay, yes. So this concludes the Winners Academy for today, and we look forward to seeing everyone on Tuesday. Again, funnel down this information to your members. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.